Hello, welcome to this video about Google Forms. Today I'm going to take a few minutes and walk you through the creation of a Google form and how you might use it with your students or yourself as a form of teacher tracking. So I'm going to start out here. I'm in Google Drive. If you're in your email or any of the other Google services, you can click up here in the top right on the little squares that Google is calling its apps button, and you can find your way to Google Drive. I'm here inside a folder called Forms, and I'm going to go to my new button on the left, and that's where I'll find the option to create a new form. At the bottom of the menu there's More, and I'm going to go into More and click on Google Forms. So here's my form that's been created for me. What I'm going to suggest first off is in this top section in form settings that you uncheck this box that says require PVNC, Catholic Digital School Board login to view this form, and that'll make sure users don't have to log in to fill out the form. Most of the time you don't need users to log in. It's really nice if you want to capture somebody's login and ensure that a specific person is filling out the form. But for most of what we're going to do, we're not going to need that. So we're going to uncheck that box and we're going to go from there. So up in the top left, I have a field that says Untitled Form. So this is where I can put in the name of my form. And you'll notice that it gets copied right here to the title of my form. So if you want to have a different title right here to your file name, you can certainly do that. Here's where I can put in my questions. Let me walk you through briefly the types of questions that you can create in Google Forms. So there's a text question, which is just an open text field users can fill out. Paragraph text is the same thing. It just gives users a bigger box, so a bigger visual cue about how much information you need. After that, there's multiple choice. Multiple choice is choose one of the following options. Below that is checkboxes. Checkboxes is a choose all that apply option. So users with a checkbox question, rather, can choose as many options as they'd like. Then there's choose from a list, which is really a multiple choice question. It's just got a different interface, so it's a drop-down list instead of all the options being presented. Below choose from a list, you have a scale option. So scale presents the user with a scale, so a rating system for your given question. After that, you have an option to make a grid question, which allows you to make rows and columns and asks users to pick one spot where they intersect. So you could make this to have a number of agree, disagree questions. So agree, disagree in maybe the columns, and then every row have its own question. Below that, you have date and time. These options allow your users to pick a date and time. So if you're trying to set up a meeting or pick the best time for something, you can use these questions. So those are the types of questions you can have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make an example form that you might use as a teacher to track students. So I'm going to create, first of all, a choose from a list question. I'm going to title it student name. And then down here in the options part, I'm going to put in a few student names. So the quickest way to do this is to put in one name, hit the enter key, and it will jump you down to the next question. Okay, so now I have a few names in my list, and I'm going to down here at the bottom click require question. So that means that every time I fill out this form, I'm guaranteed that I'm going to have a student chosen. Okay, so I'm going to click done here, and there's my question. I'd like to add another question, so using this add item button, I can do that. And if you click on the drop down on the right part of the button, you get to choose your question type right off the bat. I also want to point out here that in your form you can have a section header, so just a block of text that doesn't have a question tied to it. You can have a page break to split things up. You can also put in images and videos. So you could use this, post a video or post an image relating to something you've done with your students, and use this as an exit card. Have them respond to it or provide you some feedback on their thoughts, and then you'll have all that collected. So my second question is going to be paragraph text, and I'm going to call it observation. And I'm going to click done. So there's my form, and like I said, I'm going to use this form to collect observations and notes about students. Before we go any further, I want to talk briefly about the 3 different ways that I can look at my form. Right now I'm looking at the editable form. So this is the form view where I can edit and change what is being asked of the end user. And there are 2 other ways I can look at it, and they're both in this gray toolbar here at the top of the screen. So one is called View Responses, and View Responses is the spreadsheet that's been automatically set up by Google to catch all of your responses. You'll notice that it has the same file name with the word responses in parentheses at the end of the name, and it has both of my questions, so student name and observations, but it's also added a column called timestamp. So automatically whenever something is submitted, Google will timestamp it for you. I'm going to close this tab to get back to my editable form. The other way I can look at this is the live form. So clicking View Live Form, it gives me a view of my form that I can now fill out. So if I'm asking other people to fill out this form, then I would send them this link. For my purposes as a teacher observation, I'm going to put the link to this form on the desktop of my computer. Incidentally, you can do that by just grabbing this little lock icon and dragging it to your desktop. That's one way you can make a shortcut. So I'll have it on my computer. I might have it on my phone or on my iPad so that I can quickly fill it out whenever I have an observation to make. And to do that, to fill it out, I'm just going to choose a student, and I'm going to make my observation here. Okay. Now when I'm happy with that, I click Submit. It's submitted, and Google gives me the option right here to submit another response. So maybe I can go in and I could fill it out again for that same student, and I'm going to be picky about my spelling. I should say my capitalization. And submit another one. And maybe one last one. So there I've quickly run through and I've made some observations, and I've done that without having to flip a new sticky every time and then having to find a way to organize those stickies. So I'm going to go back to my form here, and now when I click View Responses, I'm going to see all of the responses that have been put in. So if I use this form over the course of a reporting period, I can come back. It will show me the date I made the observation, the student name, and what the observation was. I can also sort this. There's a little, if I click on column B at the top, there's a little drop down, and I can choose Sort A to Z. And so that will put all of my observations about Jonathan and about Sandra together. Here I can sort A to Z in the timestamp column, and that will reorder them chronologically. And if you really want to get fancy, there's a filter option here in Google Sheets that I won't go into a lot of detail right now, but that will allow you to display only some data. So if I set up a filter, what I could do is I could only show, let's only show Sandra here. I could set it up so that only Sandra's only the observations about Sandra are being displayed here. So you'll see that this goes from row 1 to row 5. That's because rows 2, 3, and 4 are currently hidden by the spreadsheet. So this really makes it easy to go back and examine the observations you've taken and be able to look at them student by student. So with this in mind, what I could have done in my form, I could certainly have had another item that was a checkbox item that was something to the extent of learning skills observed. So maybe I have a question like this where I list some of the learning skills. And maybe one more here. So I've listed some of the learning skills, and now when I go to my form, I have these here as well. So I could be checking off whenever I observe those learning skills in the students and have a tracking record of what's been going on. I would probably want to tie that to an observation to give some detail to what's happening there. But the nice thing about this type of question is when I end up at my spreadsheet, I would have something more than the student name to be able to sort. So another way that I could sort or split it up rather than reading every observation. So this question may also be a list of subject matters. It could be right down to specific expectations that I'm looking for, that I want to see whether or not a student has met and make a note of it. So again, the important thing to remember is that you have these three different views. So there's the edit view, there's the responses view, and then there's the live form. If I hop back to my Google Drive folder, here's the form I made off the top. The purple file type is the Google form, and here's the spreadsheet that has my responses. If I'm at my spreadsheet and I want to get back to my form, there's a form menu here, and I can use that menu to either go to the live form, go to the live form, or I can edit the form. Okay. So in a nutshell, that's a Google form. You could use it to, like I said, as a teacher, create your own record for tracking. You could use it to send to students to have them fill out an exit card or a quick little quiz to give you some information about their understanding, maybe as a diagnostic assessment. And you could also create a similar observation form looking for specific things that students could fill out as well, so that you have some of their self-assessment all put in one place. So maybe a question that's student name, and under that a question that asks who's doing the observation. Is it the teacher, or is it a student self-assessment, or is it a peer assessment? So that's a quick look at Google Forms. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to help, and I hope this has been useful.